Are you ready to get your feet wet? Because this is the Knowledge Pool, hosted by Gathering Information. We're here to bring you a casual conversation between friends about everything to do with collecting, trading, and playing Magic the Gathering.
I am Tams.
I am Step.
And I am Laura.
So put on your bathing suits and dive right into the Knowledge Pool. Hello and welcome to the Knowledge Pool, episode 31.
Boy, 31.
We're getting old.
I say that every week. Like, it's a big shock that we're one number further, but honestly,
well, we did miss that week.
Good.
Not last week, but the week before.
That's true.
Let us never speak of it again.
Yeah, all right.
But now we're moved, and while we're not in our dedicated recording space yet, that'll be next week, we at least can see the microphone for the packed things.
Yes, we've got a stack of cardboard over there in the corner, and it's not just Magic cards.
It's true.
Although those are taking up copious amounts of space in my office.
Yes, they're in your man cave, so I really don't care.
There's a sorting table involved. You don't want to know.
Speaking of the magical cards.
Yes, and you should keep that door closed so Draft Cat here doesn't go tiptoeing
Exploring?
through the cards.
I had for a couple of days, and then I left it open this morning, and he didn't seem to...
He's not interested.
No.
There's too much else in the house.
When I'm in there, he wants to get up on things, but
Because
when
you're in there.
I'm not in there, he seems to just follow you around all day.
Yes, because he loves his money.
So, yeah. Anyway, Magic. Have we done anything?
Nope.
Nope.
We haven't played a single game of Magic?
No, because we've been moving, and then we had Thanksgiving here in Canada.
Canadian Thanksgiving.
Oh, is that your excuse?
Yes.
You saw the food. We were at Laura's place for dinner.
were.
It was great.
Sweet
That
goodness.
turkey was quite good.
Well, you did an excellent job carving.
Thank you.
And the lemon tarts.
Oh, yeah.
The lemon bars.
Lemon bars.
Yeah, I
good.
should have had one of those instead of a slice of pumpkin pie.
Yeah, pie you can get anytime with Costco.
I solved that problem by having both.
I solved that problem by having
All of it.
about my face full of pies.
Yeah, you had a sizable plate of dessert, and it took you quite a bit, but you did manage
I admired
to
your
polish
commitment.
it off.
To be fair, I didn't have that much dinner. I was just eating very slowly, but
That's true.
I then
Made up
continuously ate for about an hour, just working my way slowly through the various pies I had.
Yeah, it was
for it. I
pretty
drank a
awesome.
fairly excellent beer.
Yeah, my sister said that she loves that brewery and she can get you the name if you want it.
I would love it, actually. I'd
Even
like to go on
I
it.
thought it was not too shabby, and I don't like beer particularly.
It's funny, she gave me the fuzzy eyebrow when I said I'll let it warm up a little bit, but when it got warmer, it was actually quite a bit nicer. That's what happens to food when it warms up. You get to taste more of the flavor. That's why we cook things.
Interesting.
Anyway.
I also had a cider, a small one. I had one sip, walked away to do something, came back, took another sip, and felt something on my lip, and realized a wasp had flown in my can. So
Yeah.
that was very scary.
And then what did you do, Tam?
I brought it to Laura because I tried to get Steph to deal with it. And he said, "Go give it to your girlfriend."
Well,
I was like,
She comes
okay.
up to me and she goes, "There's a wasp in my drink." I go, "What do you want me to do about it?"
Like, get rid of it, pour it out. There's not a lot of things that I'm either afraid of or really bother me. Wasps are one of them, and the other is June bugs. Because they're sticky
How do you survive?
and crunchy. In Canada, I know, right? I lock myself in the house from like June to September.
I have to deal with wasps at work, like, all day.
Yeah, wasps I'm not a fan of. June bugs are
Just
prevalent.
Yeah, they are. It's that they're sticky, and I don't mind beetles. Beetles are fine, but these get stuck in your hair. But to be clear, I don't mind bees, honeybees, bumblebees. It's wasps and hornets. They're assholes.
That's true.
I think we had the conversation about how I prefer moths over butterflies.
Yeah. So we all have our strangeness. But anyways, back to magic. So
Yes. So we have
there
some
was no
news.
magic, but we've got lots of news, and we
Right.
do have this.
We've been meaning to do this for a couple of weeks now.
Yes.
Because these are prize packs that I won at the
At the pre-release.
pre-release.
That we promised we would crack the next week, and then we didn't have a podcast, and then the week after we were still sick.
And
And moving.
forgot.
Yeah.
And so we have them now, but first, some news.
Okay.
Well, I guess starting us off, they have released a trailer video, essentially, for the new Magic the Gathering board game. And I'm saying board game in quotation marks, because it does still involve Magic cards. There's just other stuff going on. So that's Explorers of Ixalan. There are going to be 4 60-card tribal decks focusing on the tribes of Ixalan, so vampires, mermaids, pirates and dinosaurs. But there's also a modular game board, we'll call it. Mm-hmm. Look, if you've played Settlers of Catan, just visualize that. Except it's face down, and then you pay mana to flip up a tile, and then it will reveal something, and you do what it says.
Yeah, so its unfortunate resemblance to Settlers of Catan really only goes as far as the physical look, because it is a completely different game.
It does just very closely resemble it.
Yeah, and I actually kind of dig the idea of paying mana to explore, basically.
Yeah, it seems very thematic.
But the fact that it's tribal-based, initially I thought was interesting, except that it's got that 4-player political dynamic with scheming back and forth. Mm-hmm. And I get it. Like, that's obviously the right thing, the right tone.
And some people really like it.
And some people really love that, but that's not really our thing.
I wonder if there's room to alter it a bit to make it more our own style of game. Also, I wonder if you can change out the 60-card decks for your own 60-card decks.
Oh, I'm sure you can.
You can.
Yeah, I think it might be interesting to try, like, a collaboration. So you have pirates and dinosaurs versus, merfolk and vampires. And then if you have 2 players, one person can... Oops, sorry, direct cat. One person can pilot 2 decks. Or if you have 4 people, you can do a 2-headed giant type of thing.
That would be more our
thing.
thing.
I'm sure that one of our friends who is a student and has rich parents will probably end up buying a copy. Mm-hmm. So we might get a chance to play it.
I'd love to get a chance to play with it because with the exception of the politics, the gaming politics that I'm not a fan of, everything else seemed really interesting and looked like a lot of fun.
What did you think of the price tag? MSRP
$64.99. Yeah. American.
Yeah.
You get 4 60-card decks in it that I'm sure you could play against each other without the game as well.
There are several notable reprints with new art. Nothing too expensive, I don't think.
But still kind of nice. I think it's finely price pointed. It's going to have replayability, especially if you can put your own decks in.
Now, that's actually the thing I would be concerned about. We are all people who play board games for fun. And all board games run into the problem of, I've now played it 4 or 5 times. My friends have all played it a couple of times. Now we're buying another game.
That and most board games that I have bought run in the $40 range, not the $60 range, and that's
American.
Canadian,
It'll be $75, $80.
Yeah,
well,
that's fair.
The arch enemy was what, 90?
Yeah, I really wanted to get to play that too, but that's just way beyond my price point.
And it's an indicator of I hate being the guy, but what's wrong with Magic? It's like, it's just too expensive. It's unreasonably expensive just based on the price of the other things in the same market.
Well, especially this upcoming year with Magic 25, the anniversary, all of this stuff.
Yeah. It's going to be you're going to really have to pick and choose what you want because everything's going to come out and everything is fairly pricey.
Yes.
So, but all in all, I think I'm looking forward to trying it. I don't have any great desire to own it, but...
Yeah, so they've only spoiled, I think, 12 cards of it so far, 3 from each deck, so hopefully some more information will be available soon.
Yeah, and we'll be looking forward to that.
And on a slightly related note, regarding Step's rant about how things are going terribly wrong in the world, the new logo. They have announced that they are going to be doing a new logo. So it features prominently the Planeswalker symbol.
Which is cool.
And the words Magic, and then underneath it, the Gathering in video game-ish font?
Video game-ish font in the coloration of the uncommon...
So
rarity symbol.
I know Steph has a lot of thoughts on it, so we'll save him for last.
Yeah.
I looked at it and I went, oh, that really reminds me of Duels, and how I thought the aesthetic of Duels was kind of ugly and simplistic. So, I don't think it's needed. I also don't really care, because they're not changing the back of the cards or anything like that. Where are we going to see this logo? Mostly on promotional materials, which, you know, you don't necessarily need to stare at for the rest of your life. So, I don't love it. I think the old one was kind of classic, and I liked it. I think the new one's kind of too, not even video gamey, just too, we're hip and cool and contemporary. But, again, I don't have super strong opinions on it. I don't really feel like I'm being personally affected by it.
As a graphic artist, it's okay. Like, it's clean. It's clear. It's very easy to see, to read. It will print really well. But I think it's missing that thing that makes Magic Magic. It's too modern and too slick.
Yeah.
For me, I much preferred the older, even though it does have that, you know, early 1980s D&D feel to it, but that's what it was, right?
That was kind of the charm.
I can understand why at the 25-year mark they want to, you know, launch something different.
Sure, and now is probably the time to do it.
Yeah, but I also appreciate the keeping things recognizable. Mm-hmm. So, like everyone, well, like you, anyway, and anything else I've seen, it's one of those, okay, sure, whatever. Yeah. But I know Step has a different opinion. Not different, just...
Stronger?
Yeah.
Stronger opinion? My stronger opinion is only in the realm of this is another indicator of what is currently wrong with Magic. And it's just, if you look at the logo, there's nothing wrong with it. It's bland. It's not unique in any way. It's gray. It looks exactly like the Magic Arena logo, which they came out with. It's just instead of Arena, it's Magic the Gathering. My problem is that the old original logo, which we're looking at on the back of a Magic card, was cool. I loved the blue mottled texture. The reason they originally got rid of that logo and made it yellow was to make it pop on promotional materials, because the blue fades into the background.
Yeah.
You know, the way silver does. It looks fine on a black background, which is what they're displaying it on.
And to be honest, it looks nice on the back of a card where you don't necessarily want that sort of thing popping out from your maybe not completely opaque sleeves.
Right. But let's have a look at these booster packs. We've got like 3, 4, 5 of them in front of us. And the color schemes here. What is that new logo going to look like on their actual promotional material?
Bland, dull.
Yeah.
It's gray.
Like,
as opposed to the yellow or the new orangey mythic.
See, I don't even really like the orangey mythic one. I understand why they made that change, because mythic rare is mythic rare.
I like the yellow one the best.
I like the blue one the best, but I understand the yellow one is better for promotional marketing. Yeah. And it is. It pops on whatever color you have it on.
Yes.
Like, I've even got a yellow-ish booster somewhere. It was the Dragon's Maze one. And you can see the vivid yellow Magic the Gathering. The new gray logo is just not going to look good on anything other than a black background.
Yeah.
And it also shows sort of this mass market design by committee approach that Wizards seems to be taking to everything now. You know, like, I love that they're coming out with these board games, the Archenemy, the Explorers of Ixalan. They're cool products. They're for a different market than Magic players. And that's great. That's probably what they should be doing instead of releasing 3 Masters sets in a year. You know? Like, make 1 Masters set, make some goofy product for like an
conspiracy
whatever, a conspiracy, and then make this board game, and that would be great, I'm sure, for sales across the board, because you'd have something for everyone without people feeling like they couldn't get into something that they might have wanted to if their budgets just couldn't afford it.
Yeah, because to be honest, there are a fair number of Magic players who are also board game players, but the question is, would you rather buy 4 60-card decks that work well with this board game, or would you rather buy a modern deck or, upgrade your modern deck.
Yeah, that's fair.
Half a modern.
Yeah,
deck.
half a modern, which is still, if you ignore the supplemental products, you're just more likely to do that. Or you could buy a standard deck with it, even just a budget one.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I definitely think the cons is my favorite as far as look. It's very...
The yellow logo?
It's very clear and pops. I am not looking forward, as the designer for our group, I'm going to have to drop shadow the heck out of that new logo to pull it up off of the page enough that it's going to stand up, especially against our personal branding colors, our blues. It's going to...
Oh, yeah.
I'll just have to...
And we're not going to be able to use it, probably.
So I think the other thing that I don't necessarily like about is just, if you look at the old logo, or at least if I look at it as someone who spent a lot of time reading fantasy books when I was younger, and still do, you look at it and you go, oh, they were going for kind of a fantasy feel to it.
This is a fantasy game.
I guess I will like it if I like fantasy things.
Yeah.
Whereas you look at the new logo, you're like, it's a game.
Yeah, it's not even a fantasy game, necessarily, or a sci-fi game, or any kind of, it doesn't even say card game to me. It just sort of says corporate logo.
Yeah.
And all of the decisions that have been making me concerned over the past year and a half, maybe, are just sort of mounting in this. Wizards is trying to be more corporate.
Yeah, or rather, the Wizards overlords, perhaps?
Possibly, yeah. I mean, I don't know. It's just another thing that concerns me in the long run.
Yeah.
And it's getting to the point, it's not there yet, but I can see it getting to the point where I'm going to be playing this game in spite of the company because I love the game so much.
Yeah.
And I really don't like that feeling.
No.
I love the R&D creative people that I listen to or watch or read from, but it's getting hard to be enthusiastic about Wizards products.
Yeah.
So that's our rant about
Don't
logo.
worry, though. There's still lots more news.
I'm a downer, but maybe I should just also mention that there's an interesting thing about the back of the Magic card. I don't know if you've ever looked.
I do know about this.
In the Deckmaster box, there's sort of a weird tick on the Deckmaster logo, and it's because there was a pen mark on the original printing, and they had to keep it the same. But I love it. I love how anachronistic it looks, how it looks like an old tome. So, I don't know. I'm maybe not the majority of people out there, but
you're the majority in here.
Yeah.
That's true.
Anyway.
Next up, Worlds happened this weekend. Not that we cared, because we were all doing Thanksgiving stuff.
Woohoo!
And stuffing our faces.
It was... If I had known, or if I had,
realized?
if I had realized, I knew it was coming up.
Yeah.
But it was like, okay, Thanksgiving, and then I'll pay attention to, Worlds happened.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I maybe should have paid some attention to that.
Yes. So that's okay. I'm here to sum up the whole Worlds in basically 3 sentences.
Okay.
All right. So day 1 was a waste of time because you couldn't see anybody's cards because the lighting was terrible and people were not playing with matched sleeves.
Oh, God, really?
Yeah. So day 1, you're not missing too much. Day 2, of course, after the first round of Standard, which is round 6 or something like that, 7, they released the deck list for Standards and revealed to everybody that there were only 2 decks, basically. Ramen Up Red and Temur Energy. They tried to trick you and tell you that there was also a deck called Treasure Red, which is just Ramen Up Red with 4 different cards, as in a playset of a single card was different out of the entire 60.
Oh, jeez.
And that was a 1-drop red creature that creates a treasure or something like that. So, anyways, it was basically just those 2. There were a couple of black-blue control decks. Thank you, Shota Yasuoka, who always plays Grixis or some variation thereof. So day 2 was basically boring mirror matches. And then day 3 was great, and you should watch it.
Okay, well, maybe I will.
All summed up for you.
Thanks.
The problem, from what I can tell, is that draft was really boring because this is a fairly low-powered set, and there are only 24 players at Worlds. So you're not getting like a super diverse or
That's true.
somebody going, I've come up with the Slitherblade deck,
Right.
or something like that. You're just getting 24 good drafters drafting the same deck, because it's not like this is not Hour of Devastation draft. There are not many different archetypes you can play in the format. And then they all play Standard, and because they're the 24 top players in the world, they're all playing the best meta decks.
Right.
Of which we're only a week past rotation. There has not been a Pro Tour yet. There had not been a GP yet. They're all playing the 2 most popular decks from last format and just swapped out like 4 cards that rotated. So
taking a step back to Wizards' bad decisions for a second.
yes, perhaps placing the Pro Tour so far after Worlds, because it's not for another 3 weeks or something like that, may have not been the best idea.
I think there's a case to be made, too, for maybe it wasn't the best choice to take away so many cards at once, like 2 entire blocks.
I mean, maybe, but it doesn't help that Kaladesh is so strong and incestuous.
It's true.
Like, energy is a very strong mechanic, and it's only Kaladesh block cards.
But you imagine that Grixis player might have had a little more to work with if he'd had Shadows over Innistrad to pull from as well.
Sure, but...
Yeah, I just...
You know. I mean, it would have been maybe a bit more interesting just because Shadows got overshadowed, by Battle for Zendikar.
That's the thing. Okay, there was never a time in Standard that Shadows existed without...
And I'm so sad because Shadows is probably my favorite set of all the sets I've played so far in Magic.
And that's really a pity because, like, Shadows should have had some time to shine. Yeah. But it never did.
Well, I mean, except for the Raven Inspector. But other than that...
Sure. Anyway.
So, so that's Worlds for you.
I do want to check out a couple of games that I've heard about, though, because apparently there was a game where every single decision mattered, and it was, like, nail-biting right to the end, so I need to track that down and have a look.
So, anyways, that was Worlds. Moving along to more problems. This is not designed to be super downer, but don't worry, we're ending on a positive note, just not now. So Channel Fireball...
This isn't Wizards problems, though. This is Channel Fireball problems.
So, as we talked about previously, Channel Fireball has been contracted to handle all of the GPs for next year. Mm-hmm. So, obviously, that's starting to come up, so they're starting to get things ready. They need to start finding judges, because, we're only a couple months out. This is an international type of planning and scheduling sort of thing. Yeah, so they released the contract that they are going to be using for all GPs next year, because they are, of course, just sending out the same contract to everybody, because it's being run by the same company. It's
boilerplate, basically.
And the contract has what could generously be called a couple of issues. So starting off, the contract was written by Belgian contract lawyers. Basically, a CFB subcontracted this out to a company in Belgium to write the contract. So they, of course, followed all the Belgian contract rules, which is, specific to that company or country. And
to start off, why did they choose to do that? There is a reason why, right? Is there?
No.
Or did they just why would they not
Channel
subcontract
Fireball
it out
is not
to
based in
a
Belgium.
US?
Wizards is not based in Belgium.
Or is it because it's a UK thing?
I guess we should preface this by saying none of us are judges, so this is all just based on research that we've done in the last week. They announced this 6 days ago, so last Thursday.
Yeah.
So as far as I can tell, they just did it because these guys have run GPs in Europe, or had written the contracts for GPs in Europe before.
Okay.
However, previously, from, again, what I've gathered through research, what would happen is a judge would just say, yeah, I'd love to work this GP. They would, be formalized and say, yep, you're coming to the GP, show up. Great, they'd show up, they'd work, and then they would sign a contract and get paid. So they wouldn't necessarily know it was in the contract ahead of time, and some of these issues apparently were in those contracts, in European contracts anyway for GPs, but nobody really cared.
Which, as someone who has signed a bunch of contracts, because I've worked a lot of jobs, that's super sketchy.
Yeah.
Working and then being told you have to sign this contract or you're not being paid, that is not defensible.
Again, this is all hearsay, so we don't actually know that this is what's happened. This is just what I've gathered. But the problem is that in these new contracts, they are following Belgian contract laws. So if you're working at a GP, you need to have business liability. Because this does not include personal liability because you will be working during the GP, so you need business insurance.
Which is not cheap, and it runs, in the $500 a year kind of realm?
Yeah, and that's basically because they're being treated as independent contractors.
Yes.
Which is technically could be the case,
depending on the outcome of the lawsuit that they're currently fighting in the States against some of the judges. So, anyways, there's a massive Reddit post about this, and there's an L2 judge who's a lawyer who looked through the contract and said, here is why I would not be comfortable signing it as is. Number one, it's in Belgian, and so I would probably need a Belgian attorney to look it over.
And a Belgian accountant.
Probably a Belgian tax attorney, because, of course, it talks about financial matters in there as well, and how you're paying taxes and things like that. But there's also wording in there that means that you, as the judge, would technically be responsible for ensuring that WotC and DCI standards are followed in the GP.
Like by everyone?
Yeah. And then there's also things in there that might state that if Wizards is sued by somebody and loses, you would be responsible for covering that.
Which is why you need the business insurance.
So, anyways, there's several things in there that look untenable for most judges, especially considering it's not like they get paid that much to do this job.
No, it's basically like break even or possibly lose money on the transaction based on how much you have to travel.
Yeah, and hotels and...
do it for the sake of having the experience.
Yeah, and getting to travel and playing and, helping to judge, which, of course, judges must enjoy doing, or else they presumably wouldn't do it at GPs.
Right.
So, anyways, this has caused some kerfuffle on both the MTG Reddit forum and also the MTG Judges Reddit forum, where people are talking about this. Channel Fireball, pretty much immediately, I have to say, they were responding within a couple hours, I think, of this blowing up, and they said, basically, we're taking all of your feedback into account. Please point out any specific areas you have problems with, and we will update you on Friday the 13th. Mm-hmm. Ooh, I just realized that. On Friday, which happens to be the 13th.
So, good news is, by the time you're hearing this podcast, this issue may have been resolved, but you should definitely go and check this out, because it's an interesting thing, not only for Magic, but I think for contract, negotiation in general.
Yeah, I mean, it is tricky when you're dealing with GPs that are happening internationally with judges who are coming internationally. Yeah. So, there's so much, international contract law that's involved with this. It is just slightly an odd choice that they decided not to use a U.S. company, considering a lot of judges are American and CFB is American.
Yeah.
No, we have reached out to several judges that we know, and the one that I spoke to hadn't heard about this yet. They are knee-deep in personal school stuff.
Yes.
But their initial reaction was, oh man, that just kind of sucks. That's awful. I mean, it makes it cost prohibitive for a lot of people who might really like the opportunity to do that, but that's a lot of money to...
I believe this person's first impression was, does this mean we're still not getting paid anything?
Yeah. Which I think is to the heart of the thing, really.
Yeah.
It's for that part of the issue, the money, the financial issue. It's a lot to ask of people who either are doing it as a volunteer or not being paid that will put them at par with what they're shelling out. That's a lot to ask.
Not taking into account any time off they've gotten off work or whatever.
Exactly. That's a lot to ask. So it's going to be really interesting to watch how this develops.
So, like I said, Channel Fireball did respond pretty much right away. My only mild concern is that they said, tell us specifically what you don't like about it, which kind of puts the ball in the judge's court, which I don't know if that's the right way to approach it.
It's really not.
But basically, here's what I think happened. Again, just based on what's happened online. I don't have any personal insight into this, nor am I a judge. But I think what happened was Channel Fireball said, hey, you guys have done GPs in the past, or you've written contracts for GPs in the past. We need a GP, or a judge contract. How about you make one that'll work for the whole year? And they said, okay. And they're in Belgium, so they wrote one up that follows Belgian contract law. Mm-hmm. And then Channel Fireball said, great, thanks for the contract. We're going to send it out without actually bothering to look at it. Or, without having someone consider the international implications of this. And then somebody started reading it and said, hey, I have a problem.
Yeah.
And, again, we'll have to see how things go with their response on Friday, but keeping in mind that the judges are not employees, they are not obligated in any way to do this if it is no longer worth it to them. So I guess the question is, what is Channel Fireball going to do to make it worth it if they have to have this insurance and stuff like that?
Yeah.
While still legally maintaining them as independent contractors, which again is presumably defined differently in every country. I know in Canada we have very specific criteria as to what constitutes an independent contractor. Mm-hmm. So, it's tricky, which is why they probably should have had this vetted before they sent it out.
I mean, if it were me, and I don't have any background in this stuff, but I would consider, instead of independent contractors, making the judges volunteers, and then...
Well, you can't do that because they are integral to the operation of the GPs, which you cannot have volunteers do. At least in Canada. I do have a background in HR, so I can tell you that that's how it worked in Canada, but... again, internationally, things are very different. Everyone has different employment laws,
So judges do a lot of stuff that judges don't necessarily have to do, like, direct events. Judges could just be there for rules squabbles, and they could have employees directing the action.
Right, but my understanding is that for, things like GPs, they are paid. It's just not very well. So, anyways... Again, we'll just have to see how things go. But that's kind of where things stand for now.
Okay.
It's kind of interesting.
Moving on to a bit of an update from a previous news piece.
Okay.
We had previously said that WotC had said, hey guys, what if we updated the Planeswalker redirection rule? What do you think?
I forgot we still hadn't talked about this.
And then, so we did talk about that and, some of the implications. And then... They have now said, hey guys, we're going to update the Planeswalker redirection rule sometime soon.
And that nebulous soon.
I read that to mean as soon as we figured out how to errata everything.
Oh, really? I read that as in Dominaria.
Oh, well, those things are probably coinciding.
Probably. So, again, basically what this is going to do is make it so that if a spell does not specifically say that you can deal damage to a Planeswalker, you will not be able to redirect it. You will no longer be targeting the player and redirecting it to a Planeswalker, so you no longer have to say, I'm targeting you with this shock. And then the player has to decide if they want to counter it or whatever before you, as the caster of shock, announce whether or not you're redirecting it to the Planeswalker or just hitting the player. So, it honestly shouldn't have that much of an impact on most players.
Yeah. This is one of those things that is, super complex and doesn't need to be.
Yeah, I think that's probably true. I mean, most of the time, WotC gets around with this by saying, well, if we don't want you to be able to redirect the spell, we're going to instead have it, we're going to have you lose life.
Yeah.
Rather than deal damage, specifically. So, basically, I think what this is going to do is make rules a bit more complicated for Commander players, because they're just going to have to look up all of the erratas to find out if a spell allows it to be redirected or not.
Yeah.
And it's going to simplify things for them digitally, which I think everybody's assuming was kind of the reason they're doing this now, ahead of Magic Arena.
Yeah.
Where this particular wording has already been spotted.
Yeah.
I think it's going to make it easier to us who like to bring new people into the game to explain things to new players, because I know Planeswalkers can be a real sticking point for new players or older players returning to the game.
We all know someone like that.
Yeah.
The only problem, of course, is that during the transition period, it's going to be a lot like the colorless mana symbol, where it just is different on two cards that mean the same thing in Standard.
And that's the biggest case for careful implementation, because if they had just introduced the colorless mana symbol at the beginning of that block, it would have been a lot less complicated.
Yes, because you wouldn't be playing with cards that said the same thing alongside each other, but that meant different things.
Yeah.
Or that said different things, but meant the same thing.
Yeah.
So, I don't think it's going to be that big of a deal. If you like to play with older cards, or you like to play with older versions of new cards, you might have to have Gatherer on your phone so you can prove to your opponent that you are allowed to redirect to a Planeswalker.
I mean, I assume I'm going to have to do that when I'm playing Commander anyway.
Yeah, so again, it shouldn't make too much of an impact on the majority of players, I don't think. So it's just cleaning things up a little bit, should make judges' lives a little bit easier, which they probably will need.
Yep.
And that's it for news.
Ooh.
We powered through.
Cool.
Yeah, we did.
So now we get to do everybody's favorite part of a Magic podcast, which is cracking packs for no value. I mean, for the value of you, the listener.
It makes me sad because I was brought up to believe that you don't just crack them, you draft with them.
Well, this is draft training.
Okay, we'll call this draft training.
But
Okay, go ahead.
I do have a question before we crack into these packs.
Yes.
Because we haven't actually talked about it that much.
Sure.
What do we think of Ixalan Limited? We've played a little bit.
I haven't played enough to say.
I think we all knew it was going to be a bit of a letdown from our.
Yeah.
And that, so
At
that's
least for
probably not. We're gonna have a hard time because we can't really judge it in a vacuum because we've had an exceptionally amazing.
And at least Steph and I have drafted 5 times in 1 month, at least for our.
Hour of Deficit. Yeah.
Yeah, and I haven't drafted in person this set at all because I got sick.
Yeah, so probably we won't have first impressions for another week or two just because, Thanksgiving and stuff. But so far it seems kind of
As soon as we get a stable internet set up, we're going to do another draft online, and we'll maybe have more to talk about there.
I've been really enjoying the, I guess, ambiance.
Yeah,
of it
I think
all.
the flavor is definitely great.
I love that there's these big stompy dinosaurs
and the
there's,
color palette.
Yeah. It's beautiful. And I really I've been enjoying a lot of the cards. I think there's some really fun, interesting things.
Yeah,
but
agreed.
I think until we get a little deeper into things.
I have to say, I could see getting sick of Sealed pretty quickly because it seemed fairly samey, which...
Well, we have another Sealed coming up next weekend
That's
for
right.
our
League
League.
is coming up in 2
So we'll
weeks.
see how that goes.
Yeah.
And we'll see how that develops, because League is always an interesting format in and of itself.
The last set that was really tribal was Shadows, and we ended up with, in the top 8, 4 copies of Black-Red Vampires,
Okay.
3 copies of Green-White Humans,
Okay.
and 1 copy of Bant Humans that was only splashing the blue.
Yeah.
So...
okay. So
we just
vampires
all
versus
developed, we just all, super developed into the tribal synergy, but there were only 2 good tribes, so it just meant, because werewolves were just not competitive, so it just meant that we all focused on humans and vampires, so I'm hoping this will not be the same way. I'm hoping we'll get 4 different tribal decks that are all
I
competitive.
think there are 3 different tribes in 4 different decks that will be competitive in the sealed environment. I think. But we'll see.
We'll see, and we'll update you on how things go once we have more evidence to back up our theory.
Yeah.
Now, we have banned Steph from opening the packs because he likes to pop them and it makes a really loud noise.
And I don't think anybody but him enjoys it. So we are instead going to have Tams carefully rip it, because she's a delicate flower. Ooh, what token do we get?
We got, the
We
cute
got a
dino
dino token.
Yay!
Alright, so we're going to start from...
The common.
Yes, alright.
Direfleet Hoarder.
Alright, so this is the 1 and a black 2/1 that when it dies you create a treasure.
Yes.
Other people seem to be higher on this card than I am. I don't know.
I think it depends on how desperately you want to enable raid for turn 3. Or how desperately you need treasure, I guess. But in, a pirate deck that had a lot of raid and also wanted treasure, I'd probably run it. In just a regular black-white vampire deck or something, I probably would not.
Okay.
That's fair. Alright, Tilanali's Knight.
Ooh.
I like this one a lot.
So it's 1 and a red. Whenever it attacks, if you have a dinosaur on the battlefield, it gets +1/+1 until end of turn.
It's a bear on its own, and there are a lot of good dinos on 3 that you can drop, and then just, well, not a lot, but you'll have some in your deck.
Yeah,
and then have a 3 power attacker on turn 3.
And like you said, bears, there's a lot of them in this format. They seem very good. They seem better than they have been in several sets.
And this one can kill other bears.
Yeah.
So I can't say I'd be happy first picking this, but I'd consider it.
I'd definitely be happy to run it in any red dinosaur deck.
Yeah. Looming Altasaur.
The 1/7.
For 4. Well, 3 and a white.
For 3 and a white, I would prefer this be like a 1/6 for 2 and a white. But
I had I think, several copies of this in my sealed pool and sideboarded them both, just in case I ran into a super aggressive on the ground red beatdown deck.
It seems like out of the sideboard, these could be pretty good.
Yeah, so I don't think I would main deck this, honestly, in any deck,
You
unless I desperately needed a 23rd
There's only
card.
one deck that you main deck this in, and this is the one where you pack one, pick one, the toughness matters.
But even if you do, if that guy dies, he's now just a 1/7.
That's true. I think this has its place in Step's new standard deck.
I was in a draft where I could have had 2 or maybe 3 of those
Toughness
ancient
matters guy?
Brontodon, or not the ancient Brontodons, the
that's a nightmare.
belligerent Brontodon. Mm-hmm. And I was nowhere near the deck. It was pack, like, halfway through pack 2, and I was like, oh man. But they came back to back, and I was like,
Yeah, you can't
Really?
take the first
No,
one, then
you
you can't
gotta-
take the second
yeah.
one.
Yeah. All right, next. Queen's Agent.
I've never liked this card.
So it's 5 and a black for a 3/3. It has lifelink and explore. I have to say, I in my pre-release deck ran 2 of the 4 and a white 3/3 with vigilance that explored. That card was fine in my deck because it was what I wanted.
Okay.
But this costs an extra mana. I mean, it gives you lifelink, but a 3/3 lifelink on turn 6, what is that going to do?
There's better lifelink in this set for cheaper.
the 2/2 for 2 white vampire is great.
Yeah.
I have died to this in a dedicated vampire deck.
And were you embarrassed? Oh, yes, we should mention it is a vampire.
Yeah, I was embarrassed. It was like, it was the last straw. And I mean that as a straw. But it was like, this was the thing that I couldn't get past.
So if you're in a only vampire deck with lots of vampire synergy and you desperately need a 6-drop, you might consider it.
Commune with Dinosaurs.
Ooh.
I like this. This is the green sorcery for a single green. You look at the top 5 cards of your library and you can reveal a dinosaur or land from among them and put that into your hand, and the rest on the bottom of your library in any order.
So the card this, of course, most reminds us of is I'd say a Tomb with Aether, but actually what I mean is Oath to Nissa.
Oh, okay.
Oath to Nissa, except you only looked at the top 4, and you got a land or a creature, and there's that whole minor clause about Planeswalkers that didn't matter in Limited, but the fact that it will get you a land means that, if you're running a dinosaur deck and you have 2 of these, you can go down to 16 or 15 land.
Yeah, even in a high curve dinosaur deck, and that's pretty sweet.
I actually had somebody play this against me in a standard deck last week.
Sweet.
He was playing red-green dinosaurs. He
Okay.
ran 4 of these. He was very sad because he had to play it on turn 2 a couple of times, or turn 1 for the land. And I actually saw another player I didn't play, but who was next to me, who was also running a dinosaurs list, cast it on turn 3 or something, so he was desperate for land, and he was very sad when he bought him 2 Carnage Tyrants, and because he needed the land. But on the other hand, it does let you dig for what you need. If
Seems
you need
sweet.
a dinosaur in that situation, you're happy to bottom some lands.
Definitely going to be a 4 of in my belligerent Brontodon deck.
But probably not first pick.
No.
No.
Sailor of Means.
Our first blue card. So it's 2 and a blue for a 1/4, and when it enters the battlefield, you get a treasure. I think this card's fine.
I like it.
In a blue pirate deck.
Sure. I like it better
about right.
that you get the treasure when it comes in than when it dies.
That is much more useful.
Although I like the 2/1 body better than the 1/4 body. But...
Yeah, that's the thing, because 1/4 on 3 is not a very aggressive creature. However, it wears a pirate cutlass very well.
It does, and it kills vampire tokens very well.
A 3/5 for 3 you will play every time.
Yeah. Yep.
So, I think if you're playing a blue pirate deck, you will happily play 1, maybe 2 of these, especially if you have 1 or 2 copies of the cutlass in your deck.
Which, again, I only played draft during the opening week, but those cutlassers were coming around to me, and I scooped them up.
We had 3 pirate drafters on my deck, and I still on my table, and I still ended up with 2.
I don't think that's going to happen now.
I agree. I think everyone's realized that in this format, having
They're
the
actually
mana
pretty
sink
good.
of being able to re-equip it is fine, even if you're not running 20 pirates like I was. So.
Yeah.
All right, our next card is
I had 17 or something. It was pretty good.
that's gross. Is a reprint with some brand new art, which I quite like, and it's Duress.
I do love this art. I think it's really interesting. I'm not sure how it says duress exactly, unless there's someone there who could rescue them and isn't. But, yeah. So, Duress is target opponent reveals his or her hand. You choose a non-creature, non-land card from it. That player discards that card. Now,
That's
for a single black.
For a single black. I had someone play this against me and try to take a creature, and I'm like, nope, non-creature. And
then did they try and take a land, and you said nope, non-land too?
No, they ended up taking something that really didn't matter.
Yeah, that's the thing. In Draft, how often are you playing non-creature, non-land spells? Like, you'll maybe have 4
I mean,
or
if you
5,
hit removal,
unless you're specifically in the like a red-blue spells type of deck.
yeah.
If you hit removal, sure.
You're doing
if
pretty
you hit
well,
a
though.
combat trick,
Well, combat tricks are almost like removal in this
that's
set,
true.
it seems like.
So the upside though is that it only costs a single black, and you're probably taking a card that costs multiple mana, so you're ahead on tempo.
I think this is mostly here for standard, though.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, and I think that would, for me, only be a sideboard card anyway.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
All right, Pious Interdiction.
Ooh, now we have an actual first pickable card.
Absolutely.
This is the white card that I splashed in my blue-red no planes pirate deck. I was splashing it only off a treasure. Worked fine. So it's 3 and a white for an enchantment aura. It says enchant creature when it enters the battlefield you gain 2 life, and the enchanted creature cannot attack or block. So it's pacifism.
Funny thing about, it's pacifism.
With upside, but it costs more mana.
2 more mana. It costs twice what pacifism costs. And that's like, they're fixing pacifism because pacifism is obviously too good.
It's very good.
And they're giving you this mediocre bonus that doesn't really matter.
I mean, the funny thing is just how many enchantments like this have been in white over the past 10 sets. They've almost all have had one. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
yep,
I think this is first pickable in a week or pack, because you do want an uncommon or a rare if you can get one in this particular set.
It's what I'd pick so far.
Yes.
Me too. All right, Crushing Canopy.
I have not changed my mind. So this is 2 and a green for an instant where you can choose one, destroy target creature with flying, or destroy target enchantment. I think this is a very good sideboard card in green.
Very good. Yes.
And it's great if you happen to, say, blow up your opponent's Pious Interdiction when they're attacking into you, because this is an instant. So you can say, oh, this creature that you thought could not block. Haha.
You're free, be free.
I don't think I've sideboarded a card in since, like, Kaladesh Limited. And I have sided in this twice now.
Yeah.
And I've only played 2 drafts.
Yeah,
So
there's a
it
lot
was
of
obviously,
flyers,
like, really
there's a
good.
lot of enchantments that matter.
That's pretty good.
So,
Next,
sideboard.
Unfriendly Fire.
Ooh.
All right, well, that's now my first pick, I think.
Really?
What
is it?
Okay, 4 and a red, instant. Unfriendly Fire deals 4 damage to target creature or player.
So I definitely think this is something to consider as an alternative to Pious Interdiction. On the minus side, it costs an extra mana. On the plus side, it can hit your opponent in the face, which in red often matters.
I also find that I prefer... I don't know. Red seems to be more open than white. Like, picking a red card first means I'm a little more open than picking a white card first.
Well, honestly, I actually think the red might just be a stronger color than white in this particular format. The thing is that red goes into multiple decks.
Yeah.
And technically so does white, but white dinosaurs is not really where you want to be in draft. So I think that first picking a red card might leave you a bit more open.
I have not killed an opponent with this yet.
Oh, I have.
But
I had it in my pirate deck. It
Feels
was great.
good, right?
Oh yeah, because you're just hitting them for like 2 or 3 or 5 in the air with your little... 1/2 with raid, or with explore. They got a counter, and you've got a cutlass on it. And then they're like, "Oh God, okay, well I'll block. I'll go down to 3."
Yeah,
Unfriendly Fire. Sorry.
it's funny because it used to be back in the day. I'm above 3. I'm out of burn range because 3 was burn, right?
Yeah.
And then the last few sets, it's just been like 4 to the face, 6 to the face.
Yeah,
It's
3
like,
to the face. There's
whoops.
multiple red cards to do that.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So I think I would first pick this over Pious Interdiction, but if you really liked the white decks, I don't think you would necessarily be wrong to
No,
go
I don't
with
think
it.
so.
Or if you
instead.
just wanted to take the cheaper card.
Yeah.
All right, our first uncommon.
Ooh, what do we got?
Wanted Scoundrels.
Unwanted Scoundrels.
So this is 1 and a black for a 4/3. Yay! Human pirate. Sounds great. Mm-hmm. And then when it dies, your opponents get 2 treasures.
Let me tell you something. I had this against me several times, and I loved it. Because I had I was in dinosaurs.
Yeah.
A lot of my stuff killed their 4/3. I was like, really? How quickly can I get my treasures? Thank you very much.
Yeah.
And it ramps me, which I
Or
liked it.
fixes.
Yep.
On the other hand, if you play them on turn 2 and your opponent can't deal with it for a couple of turns, you might have gotten your mana's worth out of it.
Sure.
And it'll make them feel super bad.
That's true,
It's
because
true.
it's not a card I would first pick.
No.
I would probably play it in a really aggressive Black Pirate deck where I needed Raid enabled, because he raids very well.
Mm-hmm.
You know how I would have built this card? I would have made it 1 treasure, and I would have made it a 3/4.
That's too strong.
Is it?
Yeah.
I would think so.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
So
Fair enough.
I assume that they did this specifically because. However, if you think about it, you go turn 2 Wanted Scoundrels, turn 3 Pirate's Cutlass, equip my Pirate's Cutlass to my Wanted Scoundrels, now I'm hitting you with a 5/4 on
Yeah,
turn 3.
that's pretty sweet.
That's pretty
Ooh,
good.
Yeah?
I haven't done that, because I
Alright.
have not yet seen a Wanted Scoundrels in a deck that I've played, but, you know, if you got there, it would be alright.
All right, next. Walk the plank.
Ooh, all
I
right.
think we have a new first pick.
I think so too.
Yep.
Even at black, for a sorcery, destroy target non-merfolk creature. Now, there's going to be one deck at the table that you side this out against.
Yes.
But I think that's just the premium removal of the set.
Yeah, so it's great. Black is a very strong color. Even though, like you said, it is double black, it's still a 2-mana kill anything spell.
Is this better or... It's sorcery. Never mind.
Are we ready? Next.
Well, what do you think, Tams?
It's black. I love it. I think it's great.
It's the first playable
even-
black card in the
You're,
pack.
you're right, I'm a fool.
Even the double black, whatever.
Yeah.
Whatever.
You're mono black anyway, what do you care?
That's right. Okay, next.
Yes.
River Sneak. Oh, that's such an annoying card in a Merfolk deck.
It is really annoying, actually.
Gosh.
So it's 1 and a blue for a Merfolk warrior. It is a 1/1. It cannot be blocked, and whenever another Merfolk enters the battlefield under your control, it gets +1/+1 until end of turn. So, you know, it's terrible against something like a dual shot, but it's great if you have a Merfolk on 3, a Merfolk on 4, and 2 Merfolk on 5.
I've been smashed hard with this.
Yeah,
In-
me too.
even in my limited playing of this set so far, it is so unblockable. Even on a 1/1 that can become a 2/2. So annoying.
Is it...
And then if your
Interesting.
opponent, or, you know, whoever's playing this puts a couple of counters on it, which is really easy to do, specifically in the Merfolk deck, which wants you to be able to put counters on your Merfolk.
Or puts a cutlass on it.
And what's super annoying is a lot of the support cards have big butts. So it's really hard to swing back at them sometimes.
Yeah,
And it's
that's true.
it's just very frustrating.
So, I don't think I would take this over Walk the Plank.
I wouldn't take it over any of the removal in this pack.
Yeah, but still
It's
very
still pretty-
annoying if you're in that deck.
Yep. And our rare Bishop of Rebirth.
Huh.
The slightly worse, and by slightly I mean much worse, White Titan.
Right.
All right, so
I
let's
forgot what this card was.
Let's say what it does.
So 3 white for a 3/4 vampire cleric with vigilance. And whenever it attacks, you may return target creature card with converted mana cost 3 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. So that's going to be most of the vampires?
Yes.
Yeah.
The problem is it's a 3/4 for 5.
Yeah.
And in a vampire deck, you might not want to get that high. So,
It's whenever it
Not-
attacks.
yes, not when it enters the battlefield. Not, you know, I mean, it has vigilance, so it still blocks, but it's only a 3/4, so how often are you attacking with it on turn 6?
This would be really good against the Merfolk deck and really bad against the Dinosaur deck.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the other problem, of course, is just that it's target creature,
Yeah.
as opposed to a permanent, which is...
Yeah.
So, I would not first pick this over removal.
No.
I don't think... If I were on the vampire deck and there was nothing else in the pack for me, I would take it and think about running it.
I would take this, I don't know,
I think it would
3rd
depend...
or 4th, and if I was in the color.
Honestly, the problem, though, is that some of the vampire cards that create vampires and thus could be considered creatures are sorceries that create tokens.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
The vampires deck is a token deck. So
Yeah.
when tokens die, obviously they don't go to the graveyard. So this doesn't necessarily return half the stuff you want it to.
That kind of sucks.
That
So
makes
we're
me
on Walk
sad.
the Plank?
Yes.
Yes.
All right. Cool.
All right, and guess what?
Oh my gosh, that sounds like another pack.
It
I
is.
get to open my own prize packs.
Oh no.
Oh, muffin. If
That's okay. I did, and I opened garbage.
All right, here we go. We got a pirate token.
Hey, one of the Menacey Pirates.
Yeah.
That's a real
Arr.
good token.
All right, here we go. Number 1, Nest Robber.
I love this guy. Probably more than I
for
should.
Haste with 2/1 dinosaur.
Yep, I like him.
I like that
going
he
in
has
most of my
haste.
red.
He has haste, and that makes him fine. Again, weak to some things like dual shot, which I swear to God I'm going to blow somebody out with someday. Or even the black card that gives a creature -1/-1, and your own creature +1/+1, Skullduggery, I think.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
But on the other hand, dinosaur, attack, raid, attack.
Haste,
fine.
2/1 for 2.
It's a 2-drop. You want lots of 2-drops?
Yep.
It'll trade with a lot of their 2-drops.
I don't really want to have to first pick it, but
Yes.
it's going in my red deck regardless. Sure. All right, next, Sunrise Seeker.
This is the guy. The 4 and a white for a human scout with vigilance that explores and is a 3/3. So I like this guy specifically in my sealed deck.
Okay.
I don't think I would want him in a draft deck of any type.
A lot of people seem to be really down on this card, and I don't really understand why. I mean, I guess he's only okay.
Yeah, he's okay. But the problem is that there's a lot of 5-drops to choose from.
He's also a human scout,
doesn't-
which is weird.
Yeah, he doesn't fit in tribally with any of the white cards. He doesn't fit into the right colors for a lot of the Explorer synergies, which are mostly in blue and green.
Sure.
So he's just kind of sitting there going, I'm fine. Do you want me? And you're just sitting there going, no, you're not a vampire.
And at turn 5 or 6 when you're going to cast him, I really don't care for another land. I mean, yes, you can thin it out of your deck, sure. And the +1 still makes him a 4/4 for 5, which is
is great if you have Cobbled Wings in your sealed pool, because
Sure.
you're slow and dirtily, and you're kind of hitting them in the air a lot, which is what I did. But he's not great on the ground.
You know what would be amazing is if they had a secret human lord in the next set, and it's just like
He might.
there's a secret hidden tribe of Ixalan, and it's humans.
Yeah,
That would
well,
be
they are
amazing.
searching for Azcanta.
That's true.
So perhaps that's what they will find there. I don't think so, but you never know.
Next, Desperate Castaways.
So 1 and a black for a human pirate that is a 2/3, and it cannot attack unless you control an artifact. But it can block really well.
Yeah, it really can.
Try attacking your nest robber into this.
So I actually played against a guy who had 3 of these in
my
his
God.
deck, and I won that match.
But you were annoyed?
I was annoyed, but he was also annoyed because he couldn't attack me.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I managed to get either I think it was flyers or just things that were bigger or evasive in some way that he couldn't block profitably.
Yeah.
And then he couldn't attack with it either, so he's just sort of sitting there taking damage.
Yeah, so obviously this is another case of you play this guy on turn 2, and then on turn 3 you play a Pirate's Cutlass.
Yep.
And then you attack them with
yeah.
a 4/4 on turn 3. Or, of course, you're on the Pirate deck, so you play the 1/4 that creates a treasure.
Yeah.
Or something like that.
Yeah.
So it's fine for an early defensive card. The problem is the Black Pirate deck, not super defensive.
Yeah.
Yeah. You need to finagle it to make it work.
Yeah.
All right, next, Prosperous Pirates.
What does that do?
So this is the 4 and a blue 3/4 human pirate, and when it enters the battlefield, you create 2 treasures.
The 2-part there is very important, because the first time I played this in my Blue-Red Pirates deck, I gave myself 1 treasure for, the first 3 games. It wasn't important. Just then I played against my second round opponent, who actually knew what the card did, and said, oh, you get 2 of those. And I said, oh, thank you. Because, it would have come up the more games I'd played.
Yeah.
But it's honestly very good.
Well, that's why they're prosperous, right?
Yes, I guess that is true. So it wears a Pirate's Cutlass very well. It's usually big enough, to be honest, that the fact that you do get the treasures to ramp you or to fix you make it worth it. I was running 2 in my very aggressive tempo-y blue-red Pirates deck, and I was quite happy with them.
Also, possibly the key to the secret hidden play anything deck. I've heard that this guy
The elusive
picking up a couple of
5-color
these,
blue deck,
yeah,
yes.
and then just splash a Carnage Tyrant
Sure.
in your blue deck.
The problem is you don't get there until turn 5.
Yeah.
But
You know what I find really interesting is that this is a 3/4 for 5, which you're kind of up on. But this guy here that we talked about was all the Bishop of Rebirth was a 3/4 for 5, and people were talking about how 3/4 is just not good enough stats.
It's the colors.
Fair enough.
Because this guy is just holding back your opponent's dinosaurs whilst you're hitting him in the air with your pirates.
Fair enough.
It's a really good comparison, though, because
Yes.
it's partially that. It's also that the bishop is double white, which at 5 doesn't matter as much, but the Prosperous Pirates are single blue, and they give you 2 treasures, which, I mean, he's only good if those treasures matter, right?
But this guy is vigilant.
It's true.
Yeah, but if he's not attacking anyway.
But you're not attacking with this as much as you're blocking with it or
fair enough.
suiting it up.
I just found it kind of interesting at
Yeah,
how you
no,
have
it's
to judge
very-
cards,
there's
cards
a lot
so
of
differently
context
depending
involved.
on the color, because that's something that somebody new would be like, but they're the same card pretty much, so what's the difference? The
Yeah,
color
no,
matters.
that's a great point.
Yeah.
All right, Blossom Dryad.
I have enjoyed this card. I've played it mostly in sealed.
Yeah. So it's a 2 and a green for a Dryad creature that taps to untap target land, and it's a 2/2.
Yeah, it's a 2/2 for 3, but it is... Okay, so it can attack and block and take out tokens and trade with 2/2s, which...
All 3 drops should be able to do.
Yeah. It can also ramp you, which is fine. It doesn't fix your mana, but I have enjoyed it in sealed. I haven't yet played one in draft, even though I've picked one.
I'll be honest, I wasn't particularly impressed with it in sealed. I also had one. I also played it. It was never better than mediocre.
Okay.
Even when I was trying to cast 7 drops. But I have not played it in draft either. I also haven't seen it played. I don't think it's good enough.
Okay.
I think if you're, again, desperate for your 21st, 22nd card, and you're in green, it's playable. But I would prefer not to have to.
Okay.
I've come up against it and only been used as the untapped target land.
And?
It was fine for what they needed it for.
Yeah. So maybe this is just another one of, if your deck needs it, you'll know and you'll run it, but otherwise
they
maybe
were
not.
using it
Like
to,
Manila.
not fix the land, but, for that double color that sometimes you need.
Sure.
Next is Spreading Rot.
Okay. 4 and a black for a sorcery. Destroy target land. Its controller loses 2 life.
So, I have a question for you guys. What are we taking so far?
That's a good question. Out of these cards, I would take the Nest Robber, and no, I was supposed to take the Prosperous Pirate.
I would take the Pirates and not consider it in my second and third picks.
I would take the Nest Robber because I'm not a huge blue player, and I would be like, okay, I guess we're going to see about red some sort of dinos.
Yeah.
All right, so I just wanted to interject there because we haven't really seen anything worth first picking, I don't think.
no.
So let's...
And this is certainly not worth first picking.
This is not worth playing.
No.
You could possibly consider siding this in if your opponent had at least 2 of the legendary flip enchantments and you desperately needed a way to kill it.
So they need to have 2 rares that you care about.
Yeah.
Honestly, I don't think I would side this in if they had 1 because I just wouldn't care.
No, you're probably right. Yeah. I've never played cards like this.
No, and I mean, there's a red card that does the same thing for 4 mana. So why would you play this one?
I'm a giant suck and I hate land destruction. I don't want to do that to my opponent anyway. It just feels so bad.
Well, I'll play land destruction when they have... I will strip mine your strip mine. But
Fair
that's
enough.
about it.
Yeah, I sided in the red version of this. It's demolished or something like that. It takes out a land or an artifact.
Sure.
So I played it because my opponent had both. This was sealed. Had both one of the flip lands and also had a cutlass.
Yeah,
So I was
absolutely.
like, "There's 2 that I actually do care about." So I will side this in. It's 4 mana. It's fine. I'll just take out one of the creatures. That doesn't really matter anyway.
Yeah.
Next, Raptor Companion.
Man, we're like 0 for 7 or something.
This is now my first pick.
Oh, that is so sad. So
I
this
know.
is 1 and a white for a dinosaur that is a 3/1.
But
That
I
is all.
love 3/1s.
He was great in my sealed pool as extra because I was in green white dinosaurs.
Yeah.
He was great fodder. He was fine.
I'd still take the pirates.
I'd still take the Nest Robber.
The problem is that he gets blocked by a lifelink
Yes.
vampire, and your opponent is up on that exchange.
They're happy
Yeah.
to make that trade.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think none of us are happy so far.
No.
Nope, and I'm afraid we're all going to continue not being so terribly happy
Goody.
because we get
Cobbled wings.
Cobbled wings.
Oh, no, I'm changing. No, I'm totally just
2 mana for an equipment that gives a creature flying, and it equips for 1.
I think this card is fine and sealed.
I love Cobbled Wings as a card. I think it's a nice mana sink if you're in a big dumb Dirtle deck.
Sure.
Because, well, I mean, you have a mana sink in that you're casting 7 drops.
Yes.
But for 1 mana, giving your biggest thing flying is fine
Yeah.
as a 23rd card.
Yeah, that's the thing. I played this as basically my 22nd card. Like, I played it over another creature that wouldn't really matter in a board stall, because I figured it would get me out of a board stall when attached to one of my 7/7 dinosaurs.
Yep, that's where I ran it too.
Yeah, because we were both running it.
It was in my original Infect deck.
Oh, I can see that. Yeah, that's mean.
Wow. Yeah.
All right.
But I think you might play this if you're desperate for a 23rd card in draft, but you don't want to first pick it.
No, you'll know. You can pick one up.
Next, Spell Pierce.
Single blue for an instant, counter target non-creature spell unless its controller pays 2. This card is great on turn 2, 3, 4, and then it gets pretty bad.
Is it, though?
Well,
isn't that when people are playing creatures?
It's not great in this particular format.
Yeah, that's
on
fair.
those turns. So, honestly, it's a sideboard card, and
it's a worse
would
duress.
very rarely consider siding it in.
Yeah.
All right, I found a new first pick.
Okay.
In common, too.
All
Are you ready?
Yeah.
Territorial Hammer Skull.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I
I
love
take this
this
over
guy.
most of the uncommons.
What does this do, Tams?
All right, this guy is my MVP. I love this guy so much. He's 2 and a white for a 2/3. However, he does more. Whenever Territorial Hammer Skull attacks, tap target creature an opponent controls.
And it's a dinosaur.
And it's a dinosaur.
It's
and
a tapper.
cute.
You don't have to pay mana for it. It's on the attack, but you want to do that anyway if you're tapping a creature down.
And if you have something that pumps your dinosaurs, or they, gives it flying, which I did have, something like that. It's just, you will play this in every single white deck that you play.
And
it doesn't matter if
stamp
you're
up
dinosaurs.
every copy.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's even better in multiples.
Yeah,
And I mean,
you don't care if it's tribal.
You don't have to be in dinosaurs, no.
No.
But having the relevant subtype of dinosaur,
It's
great.
it's just great. It's
Yeah.
just all upside.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think we're definitely all taking this so far.
All right, here we go. Our first uncommon. Kite Sail Freebooter.
Interesting. So this is 1 in a black for a human pirate. It is a 1/2 with flying, and when it enters the battlefield, your target opponent reveals their hand. You can choose a non-creature, non-land card from it and exile that card until Kite Sail Freebooter leaves the battlefield. So this is a quasi-duress, but it's got a body attached to it. But the body's a 1/2, but it is flying, but it's a pirate. What do you guys think?
I think I'm still taking the Hammer Skull.
Yeah, fair enough.
Me too. Now, that said, if we're into pack 2 or pack 3 and I'm in pirates, I will probably grab him, especially if I'm a Cutlass.
Yeah.
Sure, yeah, absolutely.
But, I don't think
Especially
I would
if you
first
have
pick him.
raid cards.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
But
I agree with that.
I have heard people saying it's great. I have not played one or against one yet.
Yeah, it's not common. We just haven't seen the set
Yeah.
enough.
Yeah.
But I think Tams is right. This is probably not going to put you into the pirate deck unless you happen to love this effect.
Sure.
But if you're in the pirate deck, you would love to have it.
Sure, it feels really good to steal their premium.
At the very
removal
least,
out
you
of
get a
their
look
hand.
at their hand.
Yep.
On the other,
That can be a huge advantage.
yeah, on that side of things, it is a 1/2, not a 1/1, and it is a flyer. Like usually, these sort of creatures just
Mesmer
sit there.
and, yeah.
Yeah.
This one can at least attack.
Yeah.
You know.
All right, next. Sentinel Totem.
So this is an artifact for a single mana. When it enters the battlefield, you get to scry one, and then you can tap it and exile it to exile all cards from all graveyards. This card is unplayable in draft.
I forgot it was in the set.
Yeah. Don't play this card. Don't pick this card. Honestly, you can do better. Take anything.
Take the Cobbled Wings.
If you do get it, you can cut off the bottom and, use the art for something, because the art's rather pretty.
It is.
You
slick.
could, if you don't have anything better to fill out cards 13 through 15 in your standard sideboard, consider it. If your local meta involves a lot of blue, white, and bomb cards.
Sure.
But no, just don't take it. Don't even think about playing it.
Man, this has been a stinky pack so far.
All right, next.
Yes.
Let's see if it's going to change. Seeker Squire.
Okay.
Okay, so this is 1 in a black for a human scout. For a 1/2, when it enters the battlefield, it explores.
Okay.
I would still take the Hammer Skull.
Yes.
Me too.
I think this card is fine. The problem is that it's not a vampire and it's not a pirate,
It's,
which are the black tribes.
again, one of those things. If there's a secret humans deck,
That's
that would
true.
be sweet.
So,
But-
I mean, if you play it on turn 2 and you explore, it's fine. I mean, if you draw a land, you got a 1/2 for 2 and you drew a card, which is fine. If you get the counter on it, then it's a 2/3 for 2, and that's great. But if you play it on turn 7...
It just doesn't feel like it should be at uncommon. It feels like almost it should be at common.
I actually agree with you. I haven't seen this played too much, but I just don't think any deck wants it enough to want to first pick it.
It's funny you say if you play it on turn 7, because I'm thinking about playing or drawing the Hammer Skull on turn 7.
And it might get you in for lethal.
That feels like it. Yeah, that feels great.
Yeah.
I know I'm ahead in that case.
Yeah.
All right, are you ready for our rare?
Yes. Is it a Vraska?
No.
Oh.
It's not a rare, though.
Okay.
Is there a foil?
Is it a mythic?
It's
a
a
mythic. Vona, Butcher of the Magan.
Oh, okay.
Three black white for a legendary Vampire Knight, Vigilance, Lifelink, and it's a 4/4. So already I think we would probably all pick it.
Oh,
Absolutely.
And then you can tap it and pay 7 life to destroy target non-land permanent only as a sorcery. Or actually only during your turn. So you can do it as an instant, but only if it's during your turn.
I don't care.
The correct way to play that ability is to attack with it with Vigilance and then tap and pay the life to get their blocker out of the way so that you recoup 4 of that life.
Yeah, that's certainly a way to play it.
I mean...
you just want to be clever about it.
That's just a gorgeous card.
On the downside, this is a gold card. On the upside, it's a great gold card.
I don't mind going into black-white, and I don't mind if I have to splash
So,
it.
yeah, I mean, the question is, if you're in white, would you rather play this or the Hammer Skull? The answer is this.
Yeah.
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 So,
Yeah, you
it's
could
a
splash
5-mana
this.
4/4 with Vigilance and Lifelink. That's already great.
Yeah.
And looking at the rest of the pack, just for comparison, there are no other good black or what? Well, there's the Hammer Skull,
But that's not
there's,
vampires.
There's no vampire card in this pack.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I would absolutely first pick that.
Yeah, and, I mean, I think it's just the pick.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It's one of the best cards in the set. You don't really care that you're taking the downside. It's like you said, Tams, you can just splash it.
Yep.
If you
No.
need to.
I think looking at the rest of this pack too, it's like we have 2 first pickable cards, and then the rest of the pack is kind of mediocre.
You would be so sad.
And that's kind of how I felt in this draft format so
I
far.
agree. Yeah, I've noticed the same thing. I think, again, it's just kind of that the power level is a lot lower than it has been over the past many sets. To be
You're
honest,
saying we've been spoiled?
We have been spoiled.
I feel like, I mean, this set so far, reminds me most of Origins.
Wow, yeah.
Yeah.
Of all the sets that I've drafted.
I mean, I do enjoy the mechanics. I love Explore as a mechanic. It feels neat.
Yep.
I like Enrage when I've seen it. I haven't seen it that
I haven't
often.
either. I think
Like-
most of the good ones are uncommon. So.
Yeah, that's probably true.
You know, I think it feels like what it should feel like. It's kind of a fun little splashy adventure for a short time before we head into our last kind of...
Yeah, hopefully Rivals kind of spices things up. Because it very well might. Amonkhet was not a great draft format, but Hour, of course, was amazing.
Yeah,
so it's quite possible that they do introduce some interesting new human tribal stuff for you, Step, or
That would be amazing.
or expand upon the current stuff. But
You could poke at Morrow and say, hey, is it too late to ask you to put like a hidden...
Oh, it's
maybe
like
it'll just be
2
banned
years
humans.
too late.
Yeah.
So, I think we're all in agreement. That's kind of it for the podcast, right?
Yeah.
But
Anything
that
else?
was super
Well,
fun.
a couple of Crack-A-Packs actually made up some time.
Yeah, but that was fun. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this because, you know,
Yes.
tell us what you would have picked. And
Please. We will have an update for you guys on the judge situation. Not that it's super relevant to a lot of people, just I think it's a very interesting way to look at how the GPs are going to be handled next year, which is relevant.
absolutely.
So,
So yeah. All right, well, until next time, thank you so much for joining us.
have fun
and-
playing Magic.
Absolutely.
Bye.
Bye.
You mess with the test, you... something or other.
With the rest?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh boy. I see. Maybe we should have stuck with the first test. All right. You need to talk, Step, so we know if you're muffly.
I need to talk at volume, is what you're telling me?
Yes,
Are you
please.
talking
All
that
right.
loudly for the whole thing?
I don't know. I always talk softly.
Do you carry a big stick?
No, but I
you
keep one in the
stole
corner.
that. I was just going to say it.
I suck. Let's move along.